Have you ever felt like you're living on autopilot, as if the days are passing by, but you're not really present in any of them? The things that used to make you smile, music, friends, even your favorite food, now feel like nothing more than background noise. That inner silence isn't laziness or weakness. Carl Jung called it the agony of the unheard soul. If nothing feels fun anymore, maybe your soul is trying to tell you something. In this video, we're going to translate that pain into words, into paths, into answers. Jung left us a hidden map, a way back to the lost meaning of life. But only those brave enough to look within will ever find it. Stay with me until the end. This might change the way you see the emptiness you've been carrying. You wake up, go through the motions, do everything you're supposed to, but deep down, something feels missing. It's as if a part of you is distant, or maybe even asleep. It's not exactly sadness. It's a kind of fatigue that comes from the soul, not the body. Carl Jung said this silence isn't a flaw, it's a cry for help. In depth psychology, Jung saw deep boredom as a symptom of disconnection from the self, the truest part of who we are. When we stray too far from our essence, the world begins to lose its color. The distractions are still there, but they no longer fill us. What once brought joy now feels like empty repetition. But this isn't the end. It's the signal of a new beginning. Even if it still lies in ruins, we live in an age of constant stimulation, yet we ignore our inner silence. We're always surrounded by noise, notifications, videos, messages. But the silence, the one that lives inside us, keeps growing, tightening, begging to be heard. Jung believed that suffering begins the moment we stop listening to this inner call. And if we ignore it for too long, it comes at a cost. Have you ever felt like there's nothing left to discover? Like all you can do is keep going, mechanically, hoping something will eventually change? This feeling is common in those who've lost touch with their inner center. And the saddest part, most people don't even realize it's happening because we've been taught to run, not to listen. The soul suffers when life loses its meaning. This quote from Jung says it all. The boredom, the apathy, the sense that nothing moves you anymore. These are the soul's cries, begging you to come back to yourself. But most people respond to that cry with more distractions, more busyness, more denial, when in reality, what heals is listening. Have you ever stopped to ask what's trying to be born inside your emptiness? Boredom might be the beginning of a deep transformation, but only if you have the courage not to run from it. Jung said that whatever we ignore in the unconscious eventually becomes our fate. So maybe it's time to ask, what is your soul trying to tell you? Do you remember the last time you did something purely for the joy of it, with no expectations, no outcome in mind? Maybe it was during childhood, when play was its own reward. But over time, we were taught to silence that part of ourselves. We were programmed to produce, not to feel. And in the process, we killed the child that still lives within us. Carl Jung spoke of the divine child archetype, the spontaneous, curious, vibrant essence we all carry inside. When we forget that part of ourselves, the world loses its sparkle. Routine swallows up wonder, and the things that once made our eyes light up become just another task to check off. We grow up and lose ourselves. Society praises those who are mature, who power through, who stay focused. But what if your distractions are actually what keep you alive? Jung believed that childlike traits, imagination, playfulness, lightness, are essential to the soul's balance. When we bury those traits, we bury the source of our joy as well. How many people live like machines, chasing goals, deadlines, schedules, but feel dead inside? They do everything right, yet sense that something vital has been left behind. Childhood isn't just a stage, it's an inner landscape where the creative soul resides. And most people abandon that landscape without ever looking back. Most people make this mistake. They sacrifice pleasure for duty and then wonder why they feel empty. It's a brutal truth. We live trapped in external expectations, trying to be useful, respectable, grown-ups. But without soul, all of that is just a hollow performance. Laughter fades, desire falls asleep, and boredom takes over. Can you remember what made you happy before the world told you what was right? Maybe rediscovering that lost piece is exactly what your soul is asking for. This isn't regression, it's a rescue. Jung believed that reconnecting with your inner child is essential for true healing. So, what did you leave behind when you grew up? When the soul cries out and we don't listen, eventually it goes silent. And in that silence we rush to fill the void with anything. TV shows, food, social media, shopping, sex, status, anything that brings instant gratification. Carl Jung called this a flight into the shadow, hiding our true feelings behind socially acceptable addictions. To Jung, the shadow isn't evil itself. It's everything we deny in ourselves. That includes pain, anger, fear, and even the need for love that we're too afraid to admit. When we chase artificial pleasures to silence our discomfort, we're really just pushing our suffering into the basement of the mind. And whatever we leave in the basement eventually comes back. How many times have you opened an app out of boredom and hours later felt even emptier? That's no accident. Because the emptiness that comes from the soul can't be filled with distraction. It calls for presence, depth, and listening. But the modern world only offers quick anesthetics, and that's how we lose touch with reality. Jung said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." By numbing pain with constant stimulation, we create a false sense of control. But inside, we're sinking. We lose the ability to feel real pleasure because our nervous system is flooded with empty rewards. Even people who had it all, fame, wealth, comfort, often describe the same feeling: apathy, chronic dissatisfaction, a nameless boredom. Why? Because no external achievement can replace inner meaning. And artificial pleasure, no matter how intense it feels, only takes us further away from what truly matters. So maybe what you call boredom is really your unconscious crying for help. That hit of pleasure might feel like relief, but it could be robbing you of your chance to awaken. Jung believed that all suffering not faced becomes a prison, but when we face it head on, it becomes a doorway. Have you ever felt like you're the problem, but deep down, something tells you it's the world that's out of place? That feeling of loneliness, even when you're surrounded by people, isn't random. It's the result of a society that has lost touch with what truly matters. Carl Jung believed that much of human suffering stems from a culture disconnected from the soul. We live in a world that's fast, disposable, and shallow. Human connections have become fragile. Conversations are brief, relationships are fleeting, and when you try to go deeper, it feels like you're speaking a different language. This creates existential loneliness, a kind of pain with no shape, but one that eats away at you from the inside. Jung saw the human being as part of something greater. To him, the soul needed meaning, not just comfort. And in a culture that sells pleasure but hides purpose, suffering only grows. It's the pain of not belonging anywhere. The feeling of being a stranger in a world that no longer knows how to listen. But what if that's actually a sign that you're still awake? Maybe you're not sick. Maybe you're just clear-eyed. This quote isn't from Jung, but it carries his spirit. The emptiness you feel might be a healthy response to a sick world, and realizing that is the first step toward letting go of self-blame. because the modern labyrinth of loneliness wasn't built by you. But you can choose how you walk through it. Most people try to adapt to the world, even if it means suffocating their own essence. But Jung believed healing begins the moment we stop chasing outside approval and start listening to the voice within. What you feel isn't too much. It's true, and it deserves to be honored. What if your discomfort is actually your soul trying to protect you from a shallow life? The world will try to convince you that you need to do better. But maybe what you really need is to slow down, to turn off the noise, and return to the place where silence lives, the kind of silence that heals. After everything you've felt, realized, and faced, one question remains. Who am I without the masks? Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, by integrating everything that's been denied, forgotten, or repressed. It's not about creating a new self, it's about rediscovering what's always been there. At the center of this journey lies the self, the deepest, most authentic core of your being. Finding the self isn't a single event, it's a path. And more often than not, that path begins with boredom, emptiness, or pain, because those are the feelings that push you inward, that force you to face what you've ignored. And that is where healing begins. For Jung, this return to the self requires courage, the courage to be alone, to listen to the silence, to stop chasing what others expect of you. It's in discomfort that awareness is born. It's in the dark that the inner flame begins to glow. That's why the apathy you feel might actually be the beginning of something sacred, if you allow it. There are practices that can help you reconnect with this lost center. Journaling, creating art, embracing solitude, spending time in nature. They're not magic fixes, they're bridges inward, and every small act of reconnection is an act of resistance, an act of life, of authenticity, even if it hurts at first. Most people try to run from pain, but meaning lives inside it. It's a hard truth, but a freeing one. As long as we run, we remain trapped. But when we face pain as part of the journey, something shifts. What once felt empty becomes fertile. What once felt like the end becomes a beginning. And what once felt like pain reveals itself as birth. Would you have the courage to cross the desert, to rediscover your true name? Because the self is waiting, but not in comfort. It lives in the middle of the crossing, and it's there, in the heart of the emptiness, that your essence can finally begin to bloom. Many people believe that to rediscover the meaning of life, they need something big, an epic turning point, a radical change. But Carl Jung taught the opposite. Meaning is born from the symbolic, from everyday moments lived with presence. And that's where small rituals come in. They don't heal everything, but they begin to heal enough for the soul to breathe again. A ritual doesn't have to be religious. It can be making coffee in silence, handwriting a few thoughts before bed, walking without your phone, gazing at the sky. When done with attention and intention, these simple acts become sacred. Jung said that myths and symbols are the language of the soul, and rituals are small doorways into that inner world. When you allow yourself to live symbolically, seeing pain as transformation, silence as listening, emptiness as the womb of creation, something inside you shifts. Life stops being just survival. It becomes a dialogue with something greater. And in that dialogue, the soul begins to speak, slowly, gently, but powerfully. People who have reclaimed simple rituals often describe a real change. More calm, more meaning, more connection to themselves. It's not magic, it's a homecoming. It's as if the soul, after being locked away for so long, starts moving again, starts awakening, because it wasn't dead. It was just quiet, waiting for someone to listen. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. This quote from Jung says it all. Your journey through emptiness wasn't for nothing. It brought you here, to the place where the soul begins to breathe. And it all starts with small gestures, small but deeply meaningful. What if your soul has simply been waiting for you to slow down, so it could remember how to live? There's no need to rush, but there is urgency. The world out there will keep racing. But maybe now you've realized the real movement begins within. If you've made it this far, you've likely realized that the emptiness you feel isn't a mistake. It's an invitation, a call from your soul, asking to be heard, honored, and lived. Carl Jung showed us that silent suffering, when met with courage, can become a doorway. And maybe now you're ready to step through that doorway with more awareness. The boredom, the apathy, the nothing feels fun anymore. All of that is just the surface. Beneath it, there's a soul longing for meaning. And that meaning isn't found out there or someday in the future. It's found here and now, in small gestures, in conscious choices, in listening to the silence. Because when the soul awakens, life changes completely. Drop a comment below. What part of this video resonated with you the most? And what is your soul asking for today? If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and keep walking with us on this journey inward. Because pain only becomes unbearable when you walk alone. And here, you're not alone.